published the 2014 terrorism index that suggests that over the last 1 year, we have seen an increase of about 61%. You have about 16 countries that are reported to have a severe number of attacks, and 10 of them are actually in Africa, 6 in Asia. And then the recent one in Canada and Australia, I would want to look at it from a copycat effect of terror attacks, just like when you have a serial killer get so much world attention in a particular act, and other people watching from the side and wanting to copy this.
We'll take another break. Diplomatic Channel continues shortly. Let's take this conversation now to the United States, where most recently, in the past few months, towards the end of the year, there have been, police brutality against black people in the U.S. It does call up questions on race, which Americans felt had already been dealt with in the 60s and in the 70s, but these issues are being raised again. How inflammatory is this situation now in the U.S., and how badly could it explode if it is not handled properly?
I'm not actually one of those who believe that this is a recent resurgence. It's something that has been there and something that is embedded in the criminal justice philosophy and system of America. What perhaps singled these recent ones out is the power of the media, that people were able to record them while they were happening, played it over the social media, and with instantaneous, precisely was choking, and he was saying, I can't breathe, and all these things were captured. So they do also attract instantaneous responses, which is what marked them up. But I don't believe that it's just a recent thing that is happening. It's been embedded. I mean, you have statistics that suggest that you have more black men in prison than in college. 1 out of every number of people killed is likely to be somebody of color. And also what is perhaps making people react more is that you're supposed to have a black president. Why is this happening and people have given it different interpretations, which I don't want to go into, except to say that it's not a recent phenomenon. It's been there. It is the dramatic nature of the recent occurrences, and also the high-wired politics in the U.S. and after the midterm election that is playing it to the fore, and nobody knows how far that can go, leading to elections in 2 years.
Well, since we're still in the U.S., let's talk about the U.S.-Cuba relations that seem to have opened up a bit more recently. What really does the U.S. stand to gain opening up relations that have been closed for about 50 years?
Well, I believe President Obama, when he said that you can't keep doing something one way and expect different results. This blockade has been on for over 50 years. Castro brothers are still in power. Communism is still and somebody who doesn't have to go into an election again, he has 2 years to basically do what he wants. He has executive powers. Hey, let's get some mileage here, which is what he has done. And interestingly for me, working with Ford Foundation, what a lot of people don't know is that our foundation actually made the grant that led to the talks that eventually gave. We have groups in Massachusetts working on building this kind of, preparing Cuba for this eventuality and bringing experiences from Northern Ireland and South Africa. We even sponsored peace activists who have worked in these countries to come and talk with Cuban groups, many of whom are opposed to any kind of rapprochement with. So it's a historic moment, and quite a number of leaders in Latin America have spoken, including those who are very critical of Obama, are very welcoming of this push.
What does the U.S. stand to gain? I mean, really, because I remember the Cuban leader did say that even though he was happy, that's Raul Castro, even though he was happy that the relations have been renewed, but that communism will still continue in Cuba.
Well, a lot of, if you remember when Eastern Europe and the Soviet Union, when they started Perestroika and Glasnost, Gorbachev did say that this is not the end of communism, it's reforming communism. You and I know 25 years down the line what has happened. But to answer your question about what the U.S. Has to gain from this, you have to look at it from various perspectives. You have Cuban Americans who have been cut off from their family members for this decade. It's pretty much like what you have between North Korea and South Korea. And these people are welcoming people who are also businesses that were previously operating in Cuba. Don't forget that Cuba is a major tourist destination. Many American, the industry in the U.S. with this opening is a growth opportunity for them. But more than anything is the cultural ties of Cuban Americans, many who are not, who are perhaps more broad-minded because the community is also divided. There are those who are radically opposed to any attempt to open relationship, except the Castro and communism is destroying that. So it's more cultural, but of course, U.S. Is a country that has a large economy. Any opening like this can only be cashed in by investors.
Very quickly, let's talk about the Ebola virus that plagued West Africa. More than 5,000 people, I think the figures have risen up to beyond 6,000 now who have died. Cases still reported in Cote d'Ivoire, in Senegal, also in Liberia. Thank God Nigeria is out of the woods. So is, trying to remember the other country that Nigeria also, alongside with, has become Ebola-free.
Senegal.
Senegal. Made a mistake and we put them in the other group. But the rest of the world's response, we've seen more people surviving Ebola outside of Africa than within Africa. And there's more efforts to find a vaccine or find a cure. There's some palliative measure for those who contract Ebola outside of Africa. Is there some discrimination towards this continent that makes the West unwilling to help with the situation?